Hello, welcome to my series of trying to read everything on my bookshelf until I buy new books. A lot of these have been on my bookshelf for a long time and are probably older books, but I just wanted to kind of review them. So far, I am pretty behind for July. I've only gotten through 4 books, and I am finishing up some others. So hopefully, I can get through enough because I still got a lot of books to get through before the end of this year, and I really want to be done by the end of this year. So, the story is that we had a house before with a very large bookshelf, and we moved to a smaller place, kind of like a little cottage in town, and we had to reduce the amount of books. So I only kept the ones that I really, really wanted to read. And now my bookshelf is much smaller. So a lot of them are doubled up. There's like some books in the front, and then there's books behind them. So I'm just trying to get through all of them so the bookshelf is not as crowded. The first one I read for July is Just Mercy. It was incredible read. I think it's a standard reading for or mandatory reading for everybody. It was a really good book. I don't typically give books like this a rating just because it's real people, real lives. And so I just don't feel right rating those types of books. But it was excellent. The writing was good. And it was a very important topic to be discussed. So I really enjoyed this. The next book that I read was Empire Rising. This looked so good. On the pamphlet on the inside, it says, um, in Empire Rising, Thomas Kelly tells a story of love and work, of intrigue and betrayal in a manner as grand as the Empire State Building itself. It is 1930, and the ground has been broken for a building dubbed the eighth wonder of the world. One of the thousands of men working high above the city is Michael Briory, a Irish immigrant torn between his desire to make a new life in America and his pledge to gather money and arms for the Irish Republican cause. When he meets Grace Masterson, an alluring artist who is depicting the great skyscrapers rise from her houseboat on the East River, Briody's life turns exhilarating and dangerous, for Grace is also a paramour of Johnny Farrell, Mayor Jimmy Walkerson's liaison, and Tammany Hall in the New York underworld. So it seemed really good. And it's like a heartbreaking love story. I was expecting more of a historical point of view, just learning more about like the building itself and having the experience of being there while it's being built. And there was a lot of kind of political stuff in this and kind of mob-esque type things, which I really enjoy. I really love books that are um, like gangster, mob, like that type of era. Um, I really love like The Godfather and things like that, but this was just not it at all. It was really hard to follow. I didn't love any of the characters. The dialogue was really all over the place. I had a really hard time keeping track of everything throughout the whole story. And so it was just pretty disappointing. So I rated this like a 2 out of 5 stars. Just wasn't for me. So I see maybe why it stayed on my shelf for a really long time. Next book I read, I just finished The Women by Kristin Hannah. This is really good. It has really great reviews on Goodreads. However, for me, I didn't necessarily think it was a 5 star read, only because there was an element that I didn't really like. However, I love the main character. I loved um, the friends and like the action in the book. The history is really, really detailed. You really feel like you were actually there in the setting in Vietnam. Um, there was just a really good sense of camaraderie and friendship throughout it. Um, and the main character is, and I'm not going to do any spoilers, by the way. So, in this book, Frankie is our main character. She's very young and she decides to be a nurse in Vietnam. And she is 17, I believe, when she goes. And she it just goes through her experience at Nam and um, her experience, mostly her experience when she got home, too. What I didn't love about this book was some things were pretty predictable. And a lot of that had to do around like the romance side of the book. It was just very predictable in a lot of ways. Um, there are some plot twists that I didn't necessarily see coming, but I knew something was coming. And so I just didn't love that part of the book. And I did feel like there was I got pretty irritated with Frankie at some points. However, that is something I enjoyed because I don't always love it when books I like when characters are complex. So, yes, it was a very good book overall. I just didn't particularly like that romance side of the book. Everything else in it was really good. Another thing that I didn't particularly enjoy was um, just some of the writing I felt like could have been better. Some things get repeated a lot. And, we just hear a lot about Frankie's size and things like that. And so it's kind of overkill with things like that, with like how pretty Frankie is and how much all the guys like her and things like that. And it's just like I would rather just focus on like who she is as a person, but that's just a personal preference. So overall, I did rate it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really good book. I would recommend it and enjoyed reading it. So what I'm reading now is this behemoth of a book, the Count of Monte Cristo. And so it's been on my shelf for a really long time for obvious reasons. And so I am trying to get through this by the end of the July. I'm hoping I can get through this not just by the end of July, but also some other books too. But this is my long term commitment for the rest of July. I will post a review about it once I finish it because it is such a large book and it is a classic. And I'm going to take notes throughout it so I can have a thorough review because I would imagine it's going to be deserving of one. Another book that I am contemplating reading is that has been huge and on my shelf for a while is The Priory of the Orange Tree. I've heard a lot of good things and read a lot of good things about it. However, I am not a huge fantasy girly. It's not my favorite genre, and I've looked at the back, and there's like 30 pages about like the characters and their connections and stuff, and I think there's different worlds that I would have to learn. And so just don't know if I can make the commitment. So you guys can tell me if you thought it was worth it or not, especially as someone who doesn't super love fantasy. I'm wondering if this is worth my time or not. So I got it because it just did seem very fascinating to me. And I think the plot seems very good. Um, but I'm just a little concerned that I'm not going to think it's worth it if it takes a really long time to get to know all the characters and everything like that. So you let me know if you think it's worth it, and I will take you up on it. So that's it so far for July. So keep following along, and I will keep you guys posted. But I just appreciate you watching the video and looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. Bye.